So this is a required study, okay? And it's really good to know it. When I went to Uman, actually, so somebody says, they were really getting inspired when they went to Uman. Uman is the grave of Rabbi Nachman of Breslov. Anyways, a person was getting inspired. He knows about the opening, this prayer called the Patach of Eliyahu. Does everybody have a copy? Eliyahu, you don't have a copy. Well, you have the copy. It's inside of you.
Yes.
Here you go. You can hand this back.
Part of Eliyahu.
You got it. Do you have?
Got it.
You got? Okay, fine. All right. So so we're continuing on this unbelievable prayer of Eliyahu, and every time I go over it, it just there's more insights, there's new insights, and how he puts it all together. Here we have somebody who's an ancient prophet, the most powerful prophet, the prophet who never died. His soul comes down, and Pesach Seder, when we open up the door for Elijah the prophet, he comes to every circumcision, and we spoke about what that means, because I'm like, where is he, right? And I've seen it in the books. It's an influence. Sometimes we have to always think about where our thoughts come from. And sometimes these influences put thoughts, or it's just a potential of influence that exists for us at those times, okay?
You were telling me also that, one class, that when you have good news or something that's really, really good, and then you're saying to somebody that's the influence.
Thank you. Good. Also, we said last week, very good. If you ever hear anybody comes and tells you, I've got good news, and they're going to tell you some good news, that is Elijah the prophet telling you that news. Okay? It's Bernard telling me good news, but Elijah the prophet is kind of like riding inside there and speaking through the mouth. So it's Elijah the prophet also. So he starts off the beginning. We're just going to get a little running start here because, of course, also when we are going to be involved in prayer and involved in connecting, because that's what prayer is, we have to know who we're connecting with. So Eliyahu opens up and he says, Master of the world. Okay, let me just look at the English here. Eliyahu of blessed memory began and said, Master of the universe, that we call Rabbon Almin, Master of the worlds. Right? You are unity that cannot be reckoned. You are above all. You are above all those who are above. You are the highest of the highs, really. You are concealed more than any who are concealed. You're so hidden of the hidden. That's what I would really translate it. Highest of the highs, hidden of the hidden. No thought is able to grasp you at all. You are the one who has brought forth 10 levels. We call it 10 tikkunim, which we refer to as the 10 sfirot. Okay, so now obviously we're going from the idea of there's an Ein Sof, there's completely unlimitation, no one created you, and you brought everything to existence. The first thing is, of course, you brought these 10 sfirot into existence, these 10 tikkunim. By them you guide all the worlds through these 10 tikkunim, both the revealed and the concealed. Through them you are concealed from the human race, and we learned what does that mean? You're concealed from the human race. According to the commentary of the Metoch Midrash, we said that through these 10 tikkunim, through these 10 sfirot, man is able to go ahead and have a relationship with you. Because really we need to go ahead and filter. We need to reduce. We need to dim the light. Okay? So we have a way that now, thank God, that you're concealed in a way that human beings can have a relationship. You are the one who unites them and joins with them. Because here really we're saying that the Ein Sof, the unlimited one, dresses in these 10 illuminations like a soul dresses in a body. You dwell within them like a soul dresses in a body. Therefore, anyone who would dare try to separate one of these 10 sfirot from another is considered having tried to separate your unity. Because we say there's one unifying force that guides all of these powers, all of these guiding powers, these 10 guiding powers. Okay? Continuing on. These 10 sfirot all follow in accordance to their nature. One is long, one is short, and one is in the middle. We talked about this last week. When we mentioned the 10 sfirot, we mentioned that there are 3 columns. 3 columns that are basically the pillars of this world. Those 3 columns are, anybody remember?
There's
Long,
Left
short,
and
medium we
long,
got.
short, and medium, yeah.
But the long one is, of course, the right column, which has to do with acts of loving kindness. And then there's the short column, the short pillar, right, which we say is judgment. And we say the middle pillar, which we call compassion. Long, kindness, extending to others no matter what. Short, we're not giving to anybody. No free handouts, and really nobody's worth it. And then there's the middle pillar, which is we call compassion or Rahmanut, where Hashem, even though you don't deserve it, we're still going to give it to you. Okay? So we also learn that from Shimon HaTzadik, who was the remnant of the men of the Great Assembly, who said the world stands on three things: on Torah, Avodah, and deeds of loving kindness. Torah is learning Torah. Avodah is prayer. And deeds of loving kindness, of course, is extending one, is deeds of loving kindness. Okay? So when one engages in the three pillars, he's actually really a partner in creation. Oh yeah, can you hand me one too?
Sure.
I need one. Thanks. Okay. Actually, it's brought down. If anybody holds one pillar to the nth degree, Gewalt, miracles happen to that person. They experience miracles. There was a great story. There were two people, a couple. I don't know how often they spoke, but they got a chance to speak now. They had a plan. They were always gonna do kindness with people. You know, they see with people who would be kind, and they would do kindness with people. And once, and part of there's like 10 different levels of doing kindness. One of the highest is where you give to the person and they don't know who you are. So they're always like really very particular about giving somebody in secret, that the people who they were bestowing to wouldn't know.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens, they're really particular about that. They do not want to be discovered. It's not one of those things, well, it's okay if I am. No, they cannot be discovered. So one time they did something for some people in this neighborhood or house. Maybe it was one house. And they almost got discovered and had to run. And they were getting chased after. Mm-hmm. Right? Who is that masked man? Right? And so they chased and chased and chased. And finally the only place where they can run to was an oven. Mm-hmm. I guess it was a big oven. You've heard this before?
Yes, this one I've heard.
So what happened?
Well, they get in. They hide.
Yes, and what has?
They come out okay, but his feet got burned. The bottom of his feet got burned.
So here's the scene: the woman is standing in the oven, very calm, and the oven's hot,
Yeah.
and the other guy's going,
Yeah.
going, dang man, how come you sit like this? And she said, and they have a conversation. He says, well, what kind of kindness were you involved in? Because I guess they didn't even know what each other was doing, Well, I would give them money. I'd slip an envelope underneath the door. And she goes, well, I would give ready-made food. So they didn't have to go and buy it. It was an extra step. Right? So he's still hopping on his feet, going like this. Mm-hmm. Right? And so what happened was, she said to him, okay, I see you're having a tough time. Just stand on my feet, and it'll be till the people pass, the search is over, and then we'll go out. So he stood on her feet. Yes. So I guess he was also unscathed. He was also protected because of his kindness, but not to that degree, but she was protected 100%. So it was a miracle. Because they were involved in chesed. If you stick to one pillar, to the nth degree, you see miracles. And we talked a little bit last week about Yehud and Tikkun. Yehud means your destiny, your mission. That's your positive. That's one of the three pillars where you're good at. Mm-hmm. Like learning, maybe it's Torah study. Maybe it's Tefillah is your thing where you just seem to flow really nicely with. And some people, kindness, acts of loving kindness, they seem to flow real good with. It seems to be pretty easy for them, right? So that's your Yehud. That means your destiny. That's your mission, right? Their positive thing, the positive aspect that a soul has come down here for. And then there's the negative, which is one of those pillars where there's resistance. Mm-hmm. Okay? such as, let's say, if there's resistance to learn, there's resistance to prayer, or there's resistance to acts of loving kindness. And they all might have resistance, but what has more resistance? That's your tikkun. That's what you have to fix. Okay? So you have to know your enemy. Okay? Know where the evil inclination gets you the best. Which pillar. Okay? So there you have to know your tikkun. Okay? So when you're faced with it, you can have an edge over it and perform and do what you need to do. Okay? Those are the 3 pillars. One long, hey, I didn't give the advertisement. Should I do it at the beginning or the end?
The end.
Okay, thank you.
Then they'll just get off.
What?
If they know they can find you next week, they'll...
Okay, fine, you're right. All right. Just to remind me. Okay. These 10 sefirot all fall according to their nature, one long, one short, and one is in the middle. You, Elijah the prophet, Eliyahu is still saying, you are the one who guides them, though there is none who guides you, not from above, not from below, not from any side. And in other words, even though you're dressed in these sefirot, so to speak, like a neshama, like a soul dresses in a body, still you are not bound by them. Even though you created them, you are not bound by these sefirot in any way, because Ein Sof is Ein Sof. Unlimitedness is unlimitedness, okay? You have ordained them to be garments. Here's where it gets interesting. You have ordained them to be garments, okay? Really, according to here, this perush, levushin tekinas lon, you have ordained for them garments, not ordained them to be garments, okay? In other words, levushin tekinas lon, you have fixed for them garments, okay? In other words, there are 3 worlds that dress on these 10 sefirot. Most of the things that we're going to talk about, most of all of the holy books, in terms of the Sifrei Kabbalah, the books of the Kabbalah, they're always, the Aris most specifically, everything he's talking about is the highest of the 4 worlds, Olam Atzilut. Don't forget, you have Olam Atzilut, called nearness or emanation. Then you'll have Bria, creation. You'll have Yetzirah, formation, and you'll have making. Okay? Most of the tikkunim, most of the things that is dealt with is in an address in the spiritual in the spiritual realm called Atzilut. Okay? But it's very important because, as we're going to see, what happens here. Okay? So anyways, he goes on. These garments, which are really the lower worlds of creation, formation, and making, from which come forth the souls of human beings. Our souls only come from garments. Okay? But they're high. Like the world of Bria, the world of creation is unbelievably high, is higher than the angels. That's why Rabbi Nachman says the goal of a Jewish person, his whole life, is to have dominion over the angels. That's it. That's your goal. What's my goal? Dominion over the angels. Right? Go figure. Okay, what is you talking about, Rabbi? That means you're going to be telling angels what to do. That's your life's goal. If you didn't do it, you might have to come back down here again until you get it right. Okay? You got to show those angels who's boss. Okay? Okay? But in any case, the souls of human beings come from the garments. And then now he goes, how many are the bodies that you have made? They are all called bodies, for they clothe that which is concealed within them. So we have garments and we have bodies. Bodies, what I found out to be here, are the names. There are holy names of God. Here, I've got here handouts for you guys. Okay, thank God. I should have more. No, I don't have more. Okay, I have 3. Here, you guys can get a taste of this if you don't have it already. Okay, just to look at it for a while. You'll just know, I might need one of these back to make photocopies.
Yes.
There you go. Here, pass this to Eliyahu. Thank you. So here you'll see here 10 sefirot, and each one of them has a name. Okay, so here in our prayer of Elijah, when he speaks about bodies, how many are the bodies you have made? They're all called bodies, for they clothe that which is concealed within them. No, I don't like that translation. Just one second. But kama gufin tekinas lon, you have fixed bodies for these garments. Is kariu gufa legabe levushin. They are called body in regards to the garments. The miskasyan alehon, that the garments cover them. Okay, they are covered on them. In other words, you have a soul, just like we do. We can see ourselves. This is called borrowed terminology. We have a soul, we have a body, and we have clothes, right? So the same thing is in terms of a structure of a spiritual nature. God, there's a soul, then there's going to be a body, and then there's going to be garments. Our souls comes from the garments. The body are the names of God, and those are 10 different names there. And each one is very important, as we're going to talk about a little bit. Each name.
Quick question.
Yeah.
On number 3, where it says the Yud and the V and the Hey.
Yeah.
But when you read it, it's like, why is it with the Yud and the Hey? Why not the, like, E could be...
You'll show me after, okay? We'll get into that. Okay, so now he's going to explain a body. This is how he explains it here, okay? We explained, now we're going to explain the specifics of these 10 sefirot. I think we did this last week, right? And God forbid that something should come of the anthropomorphism. We shouldn't get thinking that these are physical things, right? That's why it says they're called that. They're called in the name that we call in these certain names. They're going to give names, but this is really what we call borrowed terminology, and we spoke a little bit about that in my book about borrowed terminology. That the real idea of in page 23, right, and handling anthropomorphisms. That we basically say, from Plato's parable, that what we're experiencing in this world is not real. What we're experiencing in this world is a shadow of what's real. There is something very cosmic going on, right, in the higher realms, and only we're going to borrow terminology to describe that, but there's no way it describes that, okay? And what we think is our hands is not our real hands, and what our arms is not real arms. There is an arm, there is a hand, but we don't know what it is. But we're just borrowing the term. Okay? It's called borrowed terminology. Okay? And we spoke about chesed. Chesed is the right arm. Is that what he says here? Chesed is kindness. That means that is in the right arm. Right? So that he said here that when the Bnei Israel, when the children of Israel perform acts of kindness, when they do that, so then God, the Holy One, blessed be He, will bestow a tremendous abundance and kindness in all of the worlds. Again, when the children of Israel do acts of loving kindness, they awaken something above in the spiritual realm. And then in turn, God will pour His abundance, His kindness, His loving kindness into the world. Okay? Now, Gevura, or power, he says, it's in the left arm. Gevura is called the left arm. It's always designated that. That is, that the Bnei Israel, the children of Israel, who make the war, they make a war of God with the power to push off the evil. Okay, so here, unlike many people in California, or some people who think that there is no evil in the world, there is. It's real. And we have to deal with it. And we have to go to war. The evil is within ourselves, our own bad habits, negativity in all forms. And of course, there's manifestations of evil that are in the world, idolatry and things like that, which we have to be responsible for eradicating the evil within ourselves and whatever it is in our communities and, God willing, even the world. The idea here is there is a concept of evil, and the idea really is the left force of us, there's a power within us that we have to go ahead and push that evil, okay? It's called, we know that basically it brings down in The Path of the Just, this great book written by Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, that he says that service of God is in 2 forms. It's called Sur Me'ira V'Aseh Tov. Desist from evil and do good. Desist from evil has to do with all the negative commandments. Do good is the positive commandments. It's like what I told you by the 3 pillars, the same kind of function. desist from evil, whatever you got resistance from, in one of those columns, one of those pillars, and do good, whichever one that you're strongest in. So anyways, Gevura is the left arm. Okay, when the Jewish people make war with the evil inclination, so then the Kodesh Baruch Hu makes din and power with the wicked people are in the world. Your little square inch, your micro, it's a big, huge inyan in all of Kabbalistic doctrine. We think we're in our own little world and it has nothing to do with anything in our little corner of the universe, but it is the farthest thing from the truth. Right? Hey. Good. Okay. One second. I know that when I get a phone call, the recording stops. Okay. So when we go ahead and we work in our little corner of the universe to try to eradicate our own bad habits, our own negativity, then God, in the grander scheme of things, in our micro, when we do things in our micro, it affects the macro, because we are all woven into this huge web of infinity. And we have a total dramatic effect on things in the higher realms. And so when the Bnei Israel are pushing the evil, so God then affects din, judgment, on the wicked people. He'll take care of whatever. It's like that. This is always how the Torah works. Okay? The reason why, if you look at the book of Judges, if you see the pattern in the book of Judges, quite clear the pattern. The book of Judges was the people would worship idols, and then all of a sudden God would send some nations to harass them. They'd come and make raids, pillage, and destroy cities and villages. All of a sudden they'd have an enemy. Then a judge would rise, right? Shimshon, Devorah, right? And then they would get everybody together and go eradicate the enemy, and then there would be peace for 40 years. And then what happens after 40 years? The people would go again to idolatry. Hashem would send an enemy. A judge would rise, knock away the enemy, peace again for 40 years. The entire pattern of all of Sefer Shoftim, the book of Judges, is that exact pattern. Okay? Because what if we are not doing what's right? Hashem has to send a stick to knock us right. So that's just in a very outward form. Okay? Tiferet is the body. This quality of Tiferet is called Tiferet, which means beauty. Real, because when the Bnei Israel, when the children of Israel will praise and they'll beautify HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right, with their prayers and with their good deeds, they have, and so the Kodesh Baruch Hu, He will become glorified through the Jewish people. In other words, the Jewish people will win favor in the eyes of the nation. And that's really also what Rabbi Nachman says in Torah Aleph, the very first Torah of Rabbi Nachman, that when a Jew learns Torah, he gets what's called chen. Chen is a great word. It's almost not even translatable. It means grace, but come on, it's a charm. It's winning favor in the eyes of a person. It's just, pleasant. A person's pleasant to be around. And, they ask you for things, and of course you just want to just give to them, and you just want to make them happy. So, when we learn Torah, that's why Rabbi Nachman, the Torah was first Torah, is you got the very first in his classic work, Likutei Maharan, a Jew has to learn Torah. Because when he goes to pray, if he learns Torah and he goes to pray, he has favor in God's eyes and his prayers get answered. The idea here is also among the nations. We will win favor among the nations. Okay, we don't have it right now, right? Because we're not doing what we should be doing, like we spoke about last Thursday, right? We're not doing what we should be doing. If we were all doing what we should be doing, they would love us. But of course they don't love us because we're not doing what we should be doing. In other words, why don't many Gentiles like the Jewish people? Many do, but many don't, right? Right? Okay, in any case, when the Jewish people will glorify God, praise God, glorify God, they're involved in glory, with their prayers and with their good deeds. So then the Kodesh Baruch Hu becomes glorified through the Jewish people. And this is we call the sod of the guf. This is the body, the aspect of the quality of rachamim, which really, compassion, what does it do? It weighs between the right column, we call kindness, and the left column that we call power. Okay? We also have another name that we call it, actually, why Tiferet. Tiferet comes from a lashon of a verse in Yechezkel, which says, V'tishlach porot, which means branches. And he will send branches, which means that just like there's a tree, here's where we're going to get into the concept of the tree. There's a tree, right? The tree of life. Just like that the tree extends from it many branches to each and every direction, so also the body, which is we call Tiferet, beauty. So extends from it the arms, which is kindness, power, and the two legs, thighs, which is we call Netzach and Hod, we'll learn about right now. And of course in the middle, and the middle has actually we have the sexual organ, which is also extends, and above you have the head, right, which has the brains in it, right? So in other words, from this body we see just the body is like a tree that many things sprout out from it, interestingly enough. That's why it's called Tiferet. Two languages, okay? One is beauty, one is branches, okay? Continuing on in this body form, okay? Netzach and Hod. Netzach and Hod are the two legs. Okay, here we get something, an interesting concept here. The two thighs, the two legs are Netzach and Hod. And these are really, we call it the branches of kindness and Gevura. Kindness and power. Therefore, Netzach, we call dominance, that is under kindness. Let's go ahead and do a diagram for everybody, because it always helps to get a diagram. Okay? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 3 columns. Okay, this is the right column. This is the left. Middle, okay? We call this wisdom. And this is kindness. And here we're on dominance. Now the interesting thing, what does he say about dominance here? Is, he says here, dominance is under kindness, as we see here. Hod, this is called Hod. Either we call it splendor, or people call it empathy, because it is a character trait. This is called understanding. This is called power, Gevura. Gevura, power, or discipline. Okay, so the columns are going like this. So we see dominance is under wisdom or kindness. Let's just look at it like this. And splendor is under power. Now the real interesting thing is, which, when we study this for a while, you'll see that these energies are kind of strange. Because if you're saying it's under one pillar, how is dominance under kindness? Okay? If it flows in that flow of the guiding force. Yes! This is why we hold. I'm kind of inclining, but I don't have it totally. I'm on the cusp of it, kind of. But this is how he describes something. Netzach is under, dominance is under kindness. Hod is under, splendor is under power. So the midah of Netzach, of dominance, is called on Nikras al Shem shebnei Israel menatzchim es Yitzram, when the Jewish people will conquer over their evil inclinations, benitzachon nitzchi, with an eternal victory and constant. In other words, what is dominance here? Dominance is dominating over a person's evil inclination. Exactly like what you're thinking. Wait a minute. This is dominance over the evil. Shouldn't this be over here? Right? ובמידה זו הקדוש ברוך הוא מנצח מלחמותיו כנגד אויבי השם. And in this quality, the Holy One, blessed be He, conquers in His wars against the enemies of God. In other words, when the Jewish people behave in this way, God has, and it has a effect in the world where God will conquer his enemies in the world. Then the quality of Hod, splendor, is called on that name, that when the Bnei Israel, when the children of Israel will modim, well, they will agree, they will admit, they will thank, they will praise God. So as good is v'nosnim lo hod v'hadar, and they give to God splendor. So with this quality, then is revealed the splendor and the glory of the Kodesh Baruch Hu, who is the former of everything. So that's the kind of confusing thing about it. You would think that Gevura, or power, if this is the same column, and this is it doesn't seem to jive. This should be more like over here, and this over here, and it's not. So that's why we want to hold by the twist. You know, the DNA has a twist. So I'm thinking maybe perhaps even that they are, once they're twisted, right, really they are coming from their respective energies. It seems like that this is coming from this, and this is coming from this, but yet it gets twisted. I think that's part of the blending. There is some, I did learn with my father-in-law many years ago, another text in a different world, in a different universe, in a different galaxy, talking about a different thing, where there was a switch and a twist. And we did come with this concept of the twist of the DNA. Okay? So there is such a concept here, but just put it on the shelf, because until we have it, we don't have it. Okay? But just to enlighten you upon that. Okay? In any case, Yesod, foundation, that's this one here. The foundation is called the end of the body. Okay? And it is Mechuna b'shem ot brit kodesh, and we designate it to be the how does he translate it? Is a sign of the Holy Covenant. Okay? That the Jewish people, when they establish a Brit Milah, when they do a circumcision, also when they guard their covenant from they blemishing it, and also that we know that this certain sphera houses everything else that flows down to it. It's the holder of everything that is above it. It holds everything together. That's why it's called foundation. It's holding everything. Malchut, that's this fourth, final one, that's called mouth. Malchut is called mouth. On the Shem Ateret HaYesod, because really, here he's calling it the crown of the membrum. The crown of Yesod. After circumcision, there's a crown. And there's a mouth. And this mouth actually now is designated, interestingly enough, he calls this the quality that when the Jewish people will accept upon themselves the yoke of the kingdom of heaven. And then when this quality, and when the Jewish people will accept God as being the complete sovereignty, that means he's in total control. That means we have released all control. We've completely released it to God. That's what this quality is. So then a Kodesh Baruch Hu will then rule over that which is lower, all of the lower realms. So on a side point, don't think this is a separate entity. This is a partsuf, the lowest one, Malchut, all unto itself. And now Asher, Torah Shabal Peh Korinan La. We call Malchut, this last sphera, we call it oral law. Okay? Now we have an idea concept called oral law versus written law. Okay? We'll call Malchut oral law. It's a mouth. Something comes out of it. Our heads are also very much similar. Our heads have 7 orifices. We have 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nose, and 1 mouth. It's our mouth here of our head is also called Malchut. Oral law comes out of it. The upper sphirot, which we'll call Zeranpin, these 6, is called the written law. We have a written law, and we have an oral law. Okay? So the real idea why it's called, just you have to know that. Okay? So now after that he has organized the body, he shared with us the sphirot, the lower 7 sphirot. Now he's going to explain the head. Okay? We call them the upper sphirot. I don't know why that Eliyahu started counting the madrego, the levels from below to above. I mean, he didn't start from Malchut, he started from Chesed, but he wants to start from below to above. He started from telling us about the garments, which are the worlds of Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiya, creation, formation, and making. And afterwards he told us about the body. We call them the names. And now he comes to clarify the upper three sfirot, which are the brain, the heart, and what he calls the karkafta, the skull. Okay? And now he goes on. And then he'll talk about the soul. Okay?
Maybe he goes from below, like taught when you're praying, you have to build up to get to till you get to Shema, and then after.
Totally true.
So
Very right.
Maybe this is why Eliyahu does the Kabbalistic thing.
The body first.
Yeah.
He's describing the cosmic body. This is the cosmic body. Now he's going to explain the cosmic mind. Chachma is the brain, which is inner contemplation. Bina is the heart, for it is the heart that understands. And that's an interesting thing, what we call heart, because usually everybody understands heart as being here. Now, Kabbalistically, we'll understand this later. The Bina, mother, as we call her, is, does extend, it is the left brain. It is related to the left brain. But somehow, I won't explain in the details, it's only revealed through the heart. In other words, it's covered up in the brain and it's only revealed through the heart. Regarding these two sfirot, it is written, the hidden things belong to Hashem, our God. The hidden things belong to Hashem, Yud-Ke Vav-Ke, our God is Elohim. Let me see it. Hanisrolosh Lashem, should be Lashem Elokeinu, not Adonut, what he says here. Okay? Which means what? They're in the brain. They're thoughts. They are feelings. Thoughts and feelings are inside. Just like we can know ourselves. So there's also in the spiritual realm, in the hidden realm, in the cosmic realm, there are things that are hidden. And we call those Hashem Yud-Ke Vav-Ke. That relates to Chachma. Elohim relates to Bina. The supernal Keter is the crown of Malchut. This is an interesting phrase. What do you mean the supernal Keter is the crown of Malchut? Malchut should be the lower sphera. What are you talking about, Rabbi? Okay? Malchut is the lowest. Keter is the highest. So the idea here is this, and you have to always know this. That everything exists in levels and levels, layers upon layers. The world of Atzilut, the highest of the highs, has its own set of 10 sfirot. Now, the lowest of that sphera is Malchut. That Malchut actually becomes the crown of the world that is beneath it. And then that world has its lowest part, its Malchut. That Malchut becomes the crown of the world that is beneath that one. And each one in it follows always. In that way, the worlds are always connected. There's no disconnect from each one of these worlds. So the supernal Keter is the crown of Malchut, and it is said, it tells the end from the beginning. What does that mean? It tells the end from the beginning, just like what I told you now. In other words, from the very beginning is the end of the highest of the world that is above it. Okay, in other words, there's all a connection factor. The lowest of this, the end of this, is the beginning of the next one. And he says, now Keter is the skull, the place where the tefillin rest. This is an interesting idea here. We can understand, we have a, he has a question and an answer here, and his question is, wait a minute, the skull, how can the skull be related to the crown, to Keter? Keter is supposed to be the highest of all the sefirot, the most sublime of the sublime, the highest of the highs. How can we say that Keter is the skull when the skull is just an encasement for the brain? It's just a covering. It's just we don't see anything coming from the skull. So he says a Tinok ben Yomo should not even ask such a question. A child, a 1-year-old, this question shouldn't even go up on the mind. Yet he asks it and answers it. I guess they want to just shoot this thing out. Because you have to understand, there's an inner and an outer. The skull that the skull that it's describing here is only just a little, tiny little hair of the outer part of what Keter is. It's only the last little, tiny little sliver. But really, there's Keter, which is way above. There are lights that are around us. Interesting how it says it's the tefillin, okay? Where the tefillin rest. This is an interesting dynamic. Tefillin, as we know, we put on our heads. Why? And women don't need to do it, right? Men need to do it because men need this because there are certain lights which we call peripheral lights. They're around, they're surrounding. And yet you cannot really necessarily contain them in your mind unless you have a transformer. The tefillin act as a transformer. Women have a built-in transformer. They don't need it. Men need a transformer because otherwise they can't put things together. They can't catch the light. It's a light catcher. Okay, of certain. It's a catcher of ideas that are always there, but sometimes you just can't catch it, just can't grasp it. Oddly enough, tefillin. Rabbi Tzadok, he's the one who did this article that you have here. He had an article that I printed out once about how in the Chinese acupuncture, or acupressure, or acupuncture, the same exact points for thinking, when a person puts on tefillin, he hits all of those points in that order. Bizarre. They're along here, and they're in the head too. And then here, there are certain places where the points will get hit for mental clarity, right? Yeah, through...
Even the finger.
Yeah, even the finger. Everything gets hit with the when a person puts on tefillin for mental clarity. Women don't need it, right? They have a built-in system of transformation, okay, of transforming, okay? So that's why we say that the crown is represented by the tefillin, because it's going to suck something from out there, something it's all around us. Yes, Ein Sof. Unlimitedness is all around us, but you need a vehicle to catch it, right? So the tefillin is said to be the place where the tefillin rests is the keter. Okay, so now we talked about the body. Now we talked about, right, the head. This is all the supernal diagram of this cosmic, right? I don't even know what you'd call it, okay? The cosmic framework. And now he's going to talk about the neshama. And I told you about these names, and you wanted to know why, Rabbi, you're telling us these weird names. So from within, meaning the neshama of all of these 10 sfirot, is this name, comes the name of Ma. Yud K, and we spell it out. Yud Vav Daled, and a Hey and Aleph, Vav Aleph Vav, and Hey Aleph. If you add up the numerical value of this number, it ends up being 45. Okay? 45 is a very significant number, 45. Because what? 45 is the exact same numerical value of Adam. Aleph Daled Mem. Okay? Is also 45. So if in a cosmic equation, E equals MC squared, we have this name, Yud K Vav K, spelled out with the olives, 3 olives. That's how each letter is spelled out, Yud K Vav K. And this is called the neshama of the 10 sfirot. Okay? And this is the path of Atzilut. Don't forget, we're always in Atzilut here. So now we have here something interesting. This name is the provider of water to all the tree. So here we're introduced. Did he mention tree above here? No. Here we are introduced now to the tree. Okay? As we know, that brings in Genesis, there are trees in the garden, right? But there's a different kind of tree that we're being introduced to tonight. This is called the tree of life. Okay? Eitz Chaim is this. Okay? And the first step of Eitz Chaim is you got to know or not know these 10 sfirot. Then we're going to get to the connection between these sfirot, which are going to be the letters between these sfirot. Okay, there's going to be 3 elementals, right? Doubles, right? And then there's going to be diagonals, right? Yeah, go like this, like this, like this, like this, okay? So there's going to be diagonals. Each one is going to represent a letter in the Torah. We have 22 letters. Do you know I saw just last week something odd, but it was just something that just put in the back of the mind, that the menorah, because they had the menorah in last week's Parsha, and they had the bulbs of the menorah. There were 22 bulbs total on the menorah. So don't know, but of course that's Chachma. Menorah represents Chachma, and without letters of communication, so there can be no transference of wisdom. You need the word thought dynamic in order to transfer wisdom. Thought, I have a thought in my mind, I put it into a word, I give you that word, from that word you recreate the same thought in your mind. Okay, thought, word, thought. All Torah is thought, word, thought. So one of the first things my Rabbi taught me. Okay? So we have this name Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, and Yud-Kei is providing water to all of the tree. This is the tree. But I'm going to tell you Rabbi Nachman, just because I like, Rabbi Nachman. So holy, There's one great story called The Cripple. Rabbi Nachman's stories are just trippy. Totally. If your kid's old enough, if you read them stories in bed, do these. If you don't do Baal Shem Tov stories, do these. They'll love it. They won't figure it out, but it's cool. Okay? But it works on the brain. Okay? There was this guy who was a cripple once. Whatever, he was stuck in the forest and he had to eat grass. And he was eating grass because that's the only way he can survive while he was in the forest. Because he couldn't move. Finally, he hits one grass, certain type of grass. And it was a wild grass, and he pulled it up, and he says, wow, I'm really going to scarf this grass down. And he pulled up the whole thing from the root, and there's this diamond hanging off the roots. Weird diamond. It's got things written on it. Oh, you see, it's a magic diamond. It's a magic diamond because if you grasp whatever side of that diamond, are you familiar with these stories at all? Yeah? If you grasp whatever side, whatever it says on that diamond, it's going to happen to you, right? So this guy who's in the forest pulls up this grass, and he grasped the ends of the diamond. So he grasped the side of the diamond that said, whoever grasped this side of the diamond, it's going to be a pity for you to return home because you're going to be transported to the place where the sun and the moon meet. Okay? Trippy. Okay? Yeah. Whoever grasped that side would be foolish for them to return home since they would be put together, that is, where the sun and the moon meet. Okay, so he uprooted and he grabbed that part of the diamond, right? So all of a sudden he's transported to where the sun and the moon meet. Okay? He looked around and he saw this was the place where the sun and the moon come together, and he heard the sun and the moon speaking. The sun was complaining to the moon. There is a tree that has many branches, each with its own fruit and leaves. Every single branch, fruit, and leaf has its own special power. One has the power to grant children to the childless, while another has the special power to grant livelihood. One has the power to heal one's sicknesses, and the others have the power to heal different sicknesses. Each one thus has its own different power. This tree must be watered. If it were watered, it would have all these great powers. But not only do I not water it, but when I shine on it, I'm drying it up. That's the complaint of the sun. Okay? Question is, what does the sun represent? Okay? The sun is wisdom. Okay? Sometimes too much wisdom burns. Okay? Too much sophistication sometimes can whittle a person dry. Okay? And if a person doesn't have faith, it can destroy faith. I know many people. My Rosh Hashiva would say, "This guy, that guy. He's a smart guy. Yeah, he outsmarted himself right out of Judaism." Okay, such a phrase my Rosh Hashiva would say. "Zechusa Yegena Leinu." Okay, so and that's another story there. The sophisticate and the simpleton. Okay, one of these days we're going to get to them. I just want to give you a tidbit about this tree. Okay, and now I'm going to throw you another tidbit about the tree. Okay, you have those sheets that I handed down to you. Now those sheets I handed down to you, they have the names of each one of the sefirot, the names which is the body. Okay. Now this is an unbelievable sefer by written called Gates of Light, Shari Ora. they pronounce it different ways depending upon what part of the planet you come from, right? It's Rabbi Yosef Gikatia, or Gikatila, okay? So anyways, he wrote a book. Basically, he dates before the 16th century Kabbalist, the Arizal. He's way before, a few hundred years. And he writes on each one of the Sfirah, and he writes like this, okay? And that's why you have to know each one of the names, these names of these Sfirot. Not only the names that I have on the piece of paper there. Because why? He says, just like a storehouse which has several rooms, and each room within the storehouse has a specific identity. One room has precious gems, one has silver, another has gold, while another has different kinds of food, and another has drinks. If a person needs food, he may starve to death if he doesn't know how to get to the room. Even though the rooms are full, it is not because his request has been denied. It's simply he's not aware of which room that he needs. So it is with the comprehension of the blessed holy names. There are names in charge of prayer, mercy, and forgiveness, while others are in charge of tears and sadness, injury and tribulation, sustenance and income, heroism, loving kindness, and grace. If one does not know how to concentrate on the very name, which is the key to the answer of his request, then whom is he to blame if his request is not granted? It is his own foolishness, his ignorance, as is written. This is a great one. It's in my book. This is from Proverbs. Hold on to it. A man's folly subverts his ways, and his heart rages against God. Again, a man's stupidity subverts his ways, and his heart, he's mad at God. In other words, it's man's own stupidity, because he just doesn't know how to approach, doesn't know what room to go to. And yet what happens? He ends up blaming God just because of his own stupidity. Okay? It's a huge rule. Okay? For God is open to everyone. It is the foolishness of man that is to blame. The one who does not know to which room he should go and therefore returns empty-handed. Yet man thinks this evil thought, that God thwarted him from getting what he needed. This, however, is not the truth, for his own foolishness has let him down. Okay? So the idea really is, the idea of the tree, it has a lot of powers to it, as we see. It is something quite dynamic. Okay? And if you also know, you've now been exposed to it, folks, there is a tree. Okay? And this is a tree, and the tree needs to be watered. Okay? So this Yud Kei Vav Kei, this meditative name, is what waters the tree. It's like a soul. The soul keeps the body going. Okay? Milagav ihu Yud Kei Vav Kei de ihu orach atzilus ihu shak yudi lana bidroi ve'anpoi. It gives water to the arms and to the branches. Is that how he writes it here? To all its limbs and branches, like water which irrigates a tree. By this water is this tree strengthened, and thus does it grow. Okay? So just like water will water the tree and make fruit to grow, and it becomes watered because of the water, so thus this name of Ma, we call it Ma because Ma is a numerical value of 45. If I go at M, Mem, and a Hey, this is 40, this is 5, 45, okay? And that's the Yud Kei Vav Kei that we just did right here, right? With the Aleph, and the Vav, and the Hey, okay? That equals 45. Ma, which is also the gematria of Adam, okay? Mm-hmm. And that is the name, this name acts as water, okay? Kamo Kain Hashem Ma Shehu HaNeshama. It is the soul. It causes to grow, mechai es kulam, and make everything, and make live all of the Eser Sfirot, ubekocho heim po'alim et pulatzam. Okay, so now, until now, he has spoken in the aspect of the extension of the Ein Sof, of the unlimited light, through the Eser Sfirot, only in the world of Atzilut, and also the Eser Sfirot of all of the rest of the worlds, creation, formation, and making. And now, after this, he's going to clarify how the Ein Sof, how the unlimitedness, unlimited oneness, extends from the head of all of the levels all the way until down here. Okay, but I think this is a good place to stop right now. Okay? But I have to go upon one thing that I didn't touch upon to finish off here. Okay? Just to end off, because we got to tie this together just a little bit here. So we see us, we're bodies, right? We have bodies, heads, arms, legs. Shebekovmas Adam atachton. So we see how Adam, below, it hints to the Eser Sfirot. This is what he showed us the entire time. Our body parts are just hints to something much bigger. Why did he show it? Is Eliyahu showing us this? Laharos, to show that there is the ability in man to be like, in his stature, the cosmic form. Va'al yedei zichuch v'taharat kol komas gufo, and but through a cleansing, purifying his body from all of his desires, his physical desires, and fixing and adorning his character traits, that his character traits should only be for God, each one of them, right? His love should be for God, his awe should only be for God, the glory should only be for God, right? Okay, it takes time. This is mental training. But by way of his aligning himself through either conquering his desires, balancing his character, okay, to be for God, by way of this, he draws down upon himself what we call the Tselem Elokim, which is the form of God. It's called the Tselem, the form, or the likeness. And he draws upon himself the Hashrat HaShechina. He becomes what we call the Dira B'Tachtonim. He becomes the dwelling place for the divine presence to dwell, to ride upon him. You become the chariot. Shi'ariru kol evarav ba'or hasfirot haruchanit, that God then will enlighten upon all of his limbs with the light of these spiritual sfirot. Now, to go the next step, that's with the physical body. He wants to go into the mind, and he quotes here from a classic work called Reshit Chachma, that he brings down that after a man should know that all of his body and all of his limbs were built on the order of something very cosmic and very high, you are just a shadow of something unbelievably huge. And he knows that his thoughts are also corresponding high thoughts, the thoughts of something very high. So if a person would know this, that he should have intention that the limbs of his brain and his heart, which is his brains, right, which are the most praiseworthy, that in these limbs, his brain and his heart, all of his life depend upon. So he should be prepared to have intention and to think only holy thoughts and to purify the thoughts as is proper. That if a person were to think in his thoughts something which is not proper, so then the koach hachachma v'abina, the force of wisdom and the force of understanding will be removed from him. And the reason is that just like if you have a blemish in a physical, a revealed blemish through a sin, it would cause the divine presence to go up. So also through the person's mind also, that he will lose also the aspect of a more higher level of thinking, that he disconnects from himself. The idea really is we have no idea how unbelievably connected that each one of us is to something so high that a person really has to know, and believe me, it's training, okay? Like I said last week, a person thinks, the rule of the Baal Shem Tov was what? Wherever your thoughts are, that's where you are. So the question really is person has to ask, where are you right now in your thoughts? Okay, so a person has to always be aware of his thoughts, if they're positive, negative, harness them, and then ask yourself the question, where do you want to be? Okay, the ultimate place is in the private chamber of the Holy One, blessed be He, who can do anything. Okay, we've been introduced to the tree today. Okay, your first introduction to the tree of life. Okay, and our connection, and God willing, will proceed in terms of the names and everything like that in the meditations next week. Okay. Through the advertisement. Okay, God willing, thank you very much. Just to let you know, anybody who's online right now should know that I also teach have other classes. Torch, there's many classes that Torch is giving all week long. I teach a Zohar class on Wednesday night here at 7:30. I also teach Thursday afternoons, 12:30. It's almost a repeat of this class. Thursday nights, actually, if anybody is in town in Ireland, I teach there, but I don't know if I'm going to be teaching this Thursday because it's a fast day. So after a fast, I'm not too great at it. But next week, God willing, Sunday, where we'll be finishing up the prayer of Eliyahu, of Patach Eliyahu. Unless,
Next week?
no, oh yes! Next week is Purim. There's no class next week. Definitely not. You can try to catch me wherever I am.
This is Central Time?
Sure.
You bet. No class next Sunday.